Hey guys, tonight we're going live with lesson 9. So I'll just bring it up. All right, 9 weeks in. Last week we spoke about the science of habits and clearly broke down how a habit is formed. And when you know how a habit is formed, they are theoretically quite easy to break. Problem is these habits are so deeply ingrained that the reward for continuing to carry out the habits that we play out each day is so large. It's so emotionally connected with ourselves. We crave it. So in order to break some habits, there must be a really powerful reason to change that. And we've spoken about whys before, but sometimes your why isn't strong enough. So what we need to do is artificially create something that's going to stand in the place of that why until you figure that out. And the hopes is that along the way, you'll figure out your why and you won't need to be blackmailed. So I'm going to introduce to you this concept today. It's the power of accountability. Now, in any endeavor, accountability is essential to success. It is what bridges the gap between information and implementation. So you would agree there's a lot of information out there these days, yet we are still getting fatter and fatter, unhealthier and unhealthier, so on and so forth. It's not because of a lack of information, but a lack of implementation, a lack of accountability. As soon as we leave the home, we aren't accountable to our parents anymore. And because of 18 years of being accountable to our parents, we're like, hey, we can buy our own food now. Woohoo! Let's go out and eat out every time we need to eat. And let's go to the shops and buy that basket full of chocolate that we've always wanted to buy. So without that accountability of our parents, we're left to our own devices. And to get back on track, yes, you do need to find some way of making yourself accountable. Otherwise, the habits you've created over your lifetime will always beat your good intentions. So we'll talk about accountability, and I'm going to give you an example of I think his name is John Bear. He in the 70s. Don't quote me on it. We'll get to that part, but the details are important. The main message that this Blackmail diet is going to give you is it's going to teach you how to bridge that gap between knowing what to eat and actually implementing it. And then we're going to look at you specifically and talk about what level your accountability is right now. We're going to pose the question, and then we're going to start to think about what you're willing to tangibly commit to getting to that next level, because every time you level up, you need to commit a little bit more. This idea that you can get results easily is without it impacting your life in any way is a bit of a pipe dream. When your focus goes towards improving yourself, as in health, it must come away from something else, and finding what that level of accountability is really important. So moving forward, being accountable is much more than throwing money at the issue, because we've coached hundreds of people over our years, and a very common theme is if the person doesn't accept complete responsibility for the position they are currently in at the time of coming to see us, if they blame something else, or if internally they think that this is going to be the quick fix that they've been searching for, quite often they're disappointed. Accepting complete responsibility is probably one of the biggest obstacles for success. It's the old adage: you can't blame, you can't blame parents, you can't blame kids, you can't blame your work situation, because at the end of the day, it's you making the decisions that has got you to where you are now. There's power in knowing that. There's massive power in knowing that, because once you do accept complete responsibility, you can change anything. So, exercising multiple times a week, eating as healthy as you like, throwing money, it's all useless unless you've got this. So let's look at an extreme example, the Blackmail diet. There you go, in the 80s, John Bear weighed 116 kilos. It was clear that he was overweight. So what he did was quite ingenious. He drew up an agreement where $5,000 would be paid to the American Nazi Party Trust if he didn't lose a certain amount of weight in a certain amount of time. So his goal was 31 kilos over 12 months. A year later, he dropped that 30 kilos and a little bit more. And this is a quote straight from the book. Because of the size of the penalty, the importance of that much money to my family, not to mention what would happen to the money if I failed, I literally had no choice but to succeed. Those are the key words in this, because unless it really, jerks at your heartstrings or it really makes you uncomfortable, it's probably not going to work. So we've had people try and blackmail themselves, written out contracts to us, given us items, only to, at the bottom of the contract, say this is an illegally binding contract. And in a foul swoop, they basically gave themselves a way out. And that's why it didn't work for them, because when it comes to the hard decisions, it's when it comes to the crunch, when you're in a position where you have to decide on, going with the crowd and eating something at a social event or abstaining because of a goal that's more in the long term, when you are faced with those really, really hard decisions, if you're going and you're pulling up to a petrol station and there's a really favorite treat of yours sitting in the hot box, and you want it and you're really compelled to have it, you need to have something that's pulling you back, that's making you accountable to making the right decision. And John Bear nailed it here, because it was literally, it was do or die. You lose weight or else. That's what it says on the cover of the book. He gave himself no choice but to succeed. Imagine what his wife would have said to him if he came home and he said, look, I made this goal of losing 30 kilos and I ate a couple more pies than I probably should have, and I didn't lose the 30 kilos, and now we've just paid $5,000 to the American Nazi Party Trust. His whole life would have been over. Agreed? So here's the thing. It's definitely an extreme example, but it's effective. If you've gone 30 years, even 20 years, if you've gone 10 years trying to lose weight and only to rebound, and you want to really make this time work, you need to go to extreme lengths. So how extreme are you willing to go? How far are you willing to push that accountability level? It needs to be uncomfortable. At the lowest levels, we have accountability written into this program, but they're no use if you don't use them. So if you're not recording data because it's too uncomfortable, if you're not using accountability templates because it's too uncomfortable, you won't go anywhere. You won't go anywhere with this yet. You'll learn something, but you will not go anywhere with it. You won't implement it. You can announce and advertise to your friends and family, but unless they're going to really hold you to it, and unless they're not going to turn around and say, oh, don't worry, you tried, we love you the way you are, then they're probably not going to be the best form of accountability for you either. Taking pics, using contracts, they are all forms of accountability. So my question to you is, what is your level of accountability? How far are you willing to go to achieve what you want to achieve? What are you tangibly willing to give up? I actually posed an idea to a client of mine a couple of years back. He wanted to go on holiday, and he wanted to get into a pair of boardies and feel confident. So I said to him, look, how about you book the trip, and if you don't get into the shape you want to get into, you give the trip away to somebody you know. Doesn't have to be a family or friend member. It could be anyone. Just give it away. Or don't go. Don't turn up to the airport. Safe to say he didn't do it. He didn't get in shape. I don't tell you this to be all doom and gloom, but what I am telling you this for is because most people won't actually do what they need to do to get into shape. They'll always give themselves a way out. Bodybuilders are masters at getting into the best shape possible. Do you know why? It's quite simple. It all comes down to status and respect. They've put themselves in a position where they're getting up on stage in budgie smugglers in front of a panel of 10 and a crowd of over 100, 200 sometimes, 300 people. Now imagine if they look like crap up on that stage in those budgie smugglers, it wouldn't feel pretty nice, would it? You would be known as, known for not getting into really good shape. So they're masters at it because they're a master of accountability. And this is what you need. You must become a master of if you're going to make anything out of getting into shape. If you're going to achieve the body of your dreams, you need to find a way to make yourself so uncomfortable, it becomes comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's how you succeed. So I'll leave you with that thought. Post any questions you like. Send us an email if you want to improve or increase your accountability. In our Whiskey India Takeover program, we regularly do photo shoots. It's twice a year, and they are a form of accountability that works really well because they show the body, and you can see the improvements you're making along the way. So our next intake is in April 15th. If you are interested, make sure you send me or Megan a message. See you guys. Thank you for listening.